Alright, this is my rough, persuasive speech. The purpose of this speech is to say that the Second Amendment is necessary and applicable in today's society and why it should not be altered. The right of self-defense is the first law of nature. In most governments, it has been the study of rulers to confine the right within the narrowest limits possible. Wherever the right of the people to keep and bear arms is, under any color or pretext whatsoever, prohibited, liberty is not already annihilated. It is on the brink of destruction. The Constitution is the pillar of our freedom as American citizens. Should the government change the Constitution because the language differs than what it is used today? Many lawyers and scholars say no. In the time past since the Constitution was written, the God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the right to protect those rights has not changed. I chose this topic for several reasons. It is my hope to stress the importance of the Second Amendment. I am an avid gun owner who believes that guns are not the problem, people are. I want to inform how important the Second Amendment is to our free society. I use traditional sources of information, many being historical texts from our founding fathers, such as Blackstone's commentary and the Constitution itself. Self-government to the correlation of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment should not be changed, and the ways that we limit gun ownership without violating the Second Amendment are my main points of this topic. Let's begin with the correlation of self-government and the Second Amendment. The Declaration of Independence declares self-government with the statement, all men are created equal. Man gives consent and the power for others to govern them. When any form of government becomes destructive, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. By having a well-regulated militia, the governed has defense from the government being tyrannical. Governments are established from the inside out, the original authority residing in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the civil rulers. Self-governing individuals should be the ones who bear the responsibility of defending themselves. This idea of relying on oneself and not the government is supported and enforced by the Second Amendment. It gives the government the means to protect the means to protect themselves, their families, and their properties. The founding fathers felt this was an inalienable right to defend your life and others. Among the natural rights of the colonists are these: first, right to life; secondly, to liberty; thirdly, to property, together with the rights to support and defend them in the best manner they can. Samuel Adams. And what country can preserve its liberties if its rulers are not warned from time to time that this people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. That was by Thomas Jefferson. Throughout history, citizens have had their guns taken without any just cause. Nazi Germany established gun control in 1939. Russia established gun control from 1929 to 1953. Germany killed 13 million Jews and others after gun restrictions were put in place. Russia rounded up around 20 million dissidents and killed them all. We have talked about self-government and the right to self-defense. Now let's consider why the Second Amendment should not be changed despite the atrocities of gun violence today. For starters, criminals do not get guns from legal sources. Criminals do not engage in activities that would make them partake in universal background checks. Disrupting the supply of illegal sales of guns would help in the fight against gun violence. This is why the Second Amendment should not change, but the process by which individuals obtain guns should be modified and corrected. All agencies of local and federal law enforcement, the military must properly report and recognize those with mental illness. The church shooter in Texas had a military criminal record and was not properly reported upon his exit from the military. And I also feel that juvenile records should also be subject to being checked in a background check. Banning certain firearms, limiting ammunition sales will not stop gun violence nor mass shootings. This will only delay the intent of those who wish to do harm. The amount of homes in America with guns has actually declined, but the amount of mass shootings have increased despite the less guns. Raising the age to 21 to purchase any firearm and focus more on mental health and background checks is a compromise to not changing the Second Amendment. As a parent, I teach my children the importance of gun ownership and safety. They do not own guns, but under my supervision, they are allowed to learn and target shoot. I would rather have a gun and never need it than need one and not have it. Now, we have talked about why the Second Amendment should not be changed due to gun violence. Now, let's consider the importance of responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership consists of proper training and security of all owned firearms. This prevents accidental shootings and firearms from getting into the wrong hands. Besides a background check, individuals should be required to take a gun safety course limited to first-time gun owners. Exemptions would include active, prior, military, and law enforcement. Safety education was even important to the founding fathers of our Constitution. John Quincy Adams believed that youth needed to train in the use of guns and proper gun safety. Legally obtaining permits to seek background checks of all gun shows. This should be required in order to prevent guns from getting into criminal hands. We have talked about aspects of responsible gun ownership and sales. Now let's conclude. The Second Amendment is still relevant in today's society and always will be. Self-government is the governed consent to individuals of the governed. The ability for the governed to defend itself with the right to bear arms ensures protection from tyranny. The acts of criminals should not impede anyone's ability to purchase a firearm. The Second Amendment should not be changed due to gun violence. Responsible gun ownership and security can reduce gun violence by education and keeping guns secured. As mentioned earlier in my presentation, I would rather have a gun and not need it than need a gun and not have it. Thank you for listening.